Now going on to the political part of the podcast, you have Vivek going on louder with Crowder and discussing the power of Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard. And of course, as many things he does on them interwebs, or in this case Twitter, it went viral, getting about 500,000 views in a couple days, which, not to brag, but the last time I tweeted, I did get 19 views for my Cigars and Cybersecurity event that my IT company is hosting. Again, if you're an IT leader in Texas, hope you can make it. Go to toppingtechnologies.com to learn about all the fun events that we host, including events like shooting machine guns from helicopters, which is perhaps one of the most awesome things about owning a small business. Unlimited creativity for unique events. Nevertheless, back to the core concept here. So Vivek did have a little blurb before the actual video. And again, if you do have suggestions for production software for video and video capture, where I can actually have the video shown above my shoulder and that way you can see both, I would greatly appreciate the suggestions. I've tried a couple, but I keep having issues. I've tried XSplit as a software, but with that, the current camera I'm using is the Razer Kaizen, which is a 4K USB camera, and it just keeps having issues. So if you do have suggestions, greatly appreciate it as we try to make the show better and better, and I know that's something people in the comments ask for, so I'm trying to figure out a mechanism how we can best get there. So the text before the speech, or the actual video, come from Vivek. He says, quote, "Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard represent arguably the most powerful cartel in human history. They're the largest shareholders of nearly every major company, even each other, and they are your own money to foist ESG agendas onto corporate boards, voting for racial equity audits, Scope 3 emissions caps, and they don't advance your best financial interest. This raises serious fiduciary, antitrust, and conflict of interest concerns. As president, I will cut off the hand that guides the ESG movement, not the invisible hand of the free market, but the invisible fist of the government itself," unquote. And without further ado,
these agencies, right? You're targeting.
This is Gerald. He's the publicly facing CEO of Louder with Crowder.
These guys, and look, I think it resonates a lot with what we talk about on the show. These are the same kinds of things that we talk about. You talked about Blackrock as well. So one of the companies, I don't know your exact connection to it, but Rovient.
Right, I founded it.
Yep. Right. So you founded that company. Is that something that you're still currently involved with heavily?
I stepped off all my boards.
I figured, okay.
There are other candidates in this race. It's remarkable. People collecting, I think Nikki Haley, while running for president, is collecting stock options off some corporate board. That seems unconscionable to me.
It seems a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But so you mentioned BlackRock. So as far as my concern, you go after these agencies, they come after you. You go after Google, they come after you. You go after BlackRock. BlackRock just doubled their size of ownership in there. I think they went from 6 million shares to 12 million shares as of August. Are you worried these companies, these big investment firms out there, are going to try to get their hooks in financially and try to put pressure on you that way?
Of course.
How do you plan for that?
Well, so here's the way the game works. And so my most recent book, it's probably the most technical of the books, is Capitalist Punishment. It lays out exactly how this game is played. It's not, if you're a public company, like let's say you take your company here public, which I would advise you not to do.
No, absolutely.
but many firms do need to go public for a wide range of reasons. Yeah. You don't have a choice in terms of who owns your shares. And so it's automatic, it's programmatic that BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, and similar firms, through their index funds, because they're not even making investment decisions.
Now, quick note on that, very similar to the Ford family, you can control who has the voting shares. So not to get too technical, but if you have your heart set on having your company go through an IPO, make sure you're delineating which shares do what. And depending on what your goals are, you can still have or remain in control of the company. But nevertheless, back to the video.
Right.
It's just that they have to have broad exposure to the market. They will end up owning 5, 6, 7% each, 25%, 30% collectively. And they're voting their shares in your boardrooms.
Right.
So even many of these CEOs who don't want to be adopting DEI policies or carbon emission policies or the goals of the Paris Climate Accords or condemnations of, George Floyd's death or whatever that shouldn't be the business of companies, they're forced to do it. LGBTQIA plus hashtag $, whatever it is.
Yeah, well, the last $sign silent.
Silent, yeah.
I see. So that's, but pretty soon BlackRock may decide that that's not silent anymore, in which case
what they decide goes, yeah.
So, and I actually could give you some specific details on this. When you said that, you're saying it as a funny aside. It's actually true. If you're going to take Apple, the world's largest company by market capitalization, right? We all know Apple. They were demanded by a fringe left-wing group that held a few shares to adopt what they called the racial equity audit at Apple. And Apple says, no, we don't want to do that. Now, I mean, this is not some sort of conservative company. Okay, Apple has is off the
that accusation is never leveled
but
against them.
But they don't. But the one thing, if you're Apple, you don't want to mess with is the talent in your engineering ranks, right? You want the best and brightest because that's how you're competing against the equivalents in other parts of the world. So they said, no, thank you very much. Nonetheless, that fringe group puts up this, I think it was called Color Us United, was one of the nonprofits that supported. No, not Color Us United. Color Us United is a good one.
I'm trying to remember who it was. I know that we covered it on the show.
It's some Colors United is a good one. Yeah,
it could be like Colors Are Us, whatever it is.
Something like that. Something like that.
It was stupid.
So it was stupid. But then BlackRock and State Street come in and say, we're going to vote and support that proposal anyway. It gets majority shareholder support at Apple's shareholder meeting, such that Apple's management team and board then go back and adopt the racial equity audit.
Which again shows you the big concerns that come when you do an IPO and your company is now publicly traded. It's no longer your company's stakeholders' company. So there's a lot more variables, and this is a great example of what can happen in terms of the downside of losing control of the company. Now you don't have so much decision power on, when it comes to what initiatives you do or do not perform and take on, which it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Now, it looks like about 500,000 views and 4,527 likes on the Twitter, or as 18 people call it, X. Which, again, let me know in the comments. Have you ever referred to Twitter as X since Elon rebranded the company? Or, more accurately, perhaps, attempted to rebrand the company with a new name? I can't help but think no. So let's go into the comments. I was just going to say, I can't help but think we're going to have overwhelming support in terms of Vivek's take. Which, again, the fact that that's not a t-shirt or a novelty mug that his campaign is selling like that, I mean, that's just a lost marketing opportunity. That's just a simple, brilliant idea. But that's just my 3 cents. It used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation, thanks to the government printing more money than ever been printed before, I should charge 4 cents, but that's just my 3 cents. Still free to click the subscribe button, however. Going to the comments section, you have one of the top responses being Samuel, and he says, quote, investor representation is broken. Funds custodians like Blackrock and Vanguard shouldn't have voting power. There ought to be a way for investors to allocate their portfolio's voting power to representatives of their choosing at any time, like how you can do with blockchains, unquote. Now, this person got 40 likes, interestingly enough, out of 5,000 views. Now, that being said, you can move your money around from Vanguard or BlackRock. I mean, it's just like any investment firm. If you want to move your money, you can. I suppose perhaps the intricacy that he's talking about is when you have a lot of businesses where you have your let's say you work at a large computer company like Cisco, for example, which is a huge networking company. Well, they might choose to have their companies offered 401k exclusively through Vanguard. In which case, if you want to do the company's plan where they'll match your 401k or they'll do a certain percentage match of how much you put into it, then you would have to. So in that case, I think he is correct in his idea of wanting to choose different representation. However, if you're an independent contractor or own a small business or just a side investor, that's a hobby of yours or that's something you want to try out, then you can choose to move your money around. You can move it from investment firm to investment firm, or if you feel so inclined, you can file the necessary paperwork and start your own firm as well. So it'll be interesting to see. It's an interesting idea. I'm not sure how that would roll out in practice. Now, going down to other interesting comments, you have some by name of BeGod saying, quote, true, but how would you break them? Tell me in simple, plain words, please, unquote. Getting 11 likes, which, again, Vivek is usually very articulate about how he's going to achieve the goals that he's setting out. And again, this is a short clip of an interview. I wonder what his ideas are to break up those companies, because they're a monopoly or duopoly. I mean, it's not just one company. Realistically, you do have 3 large investment firms, which are the 3 that they talked about. I wonder if it would be possible to break them up, and then what would consumer sentiment be about that, or how would people feel? Would they be happy, elated? Would they protest that? Would it be a point of contention that maybe some people won't vote for him to be a Republican nominee because of that idea? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts on in terms of could the government and should the government break up those types of investment firms? Somebody by the name of Seish saying, quote, that's a lot of yeses, but nevertheless, quote, yes, 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 yes. We need someone who understands this and can make positive changes so much. Yes, unquote. So they win the made up award of the minute of using most yeses in a Twitter response. This person did get 21 likes though. Let's see here. Some name of Akish said, quote, some say that transparency and accountability are needed to ensure the financial industry's integrity, unquote, getting 4 likes. Although again, a lot of this is I'm not sure how you go about it, but anecdotally speaking, a lot of this is public knowledge. When you hear about investment groups and investment companies pushing businesses in certain directions and voting in certain ways. But it'd be interesting to see if you could increase the transparency without them perhaps losing competitive advantage against their competitors. Now, some people might argue they actually don't compete, kind of like cable companies where it's just you just happen to only have one option when you move into an apartment or a house, and that's one ISP or internet service provider or cable provider. It's because they have little agreements that they won't compete because it's better for business, well, better for their business. Let's see. Sably Riley said, quote, how do I invest in other assets? My 401k is with Vanguard, unquote. She got 1 like. Well, again, you can move it around at any time. It's not overly complex. It is just kind of standard paperwork, just like how you could, if you don't want to use a particular bank in the United States, you can choose to close your account and move your money and assets to a different bank of your choosing. Let's see here. A lot of people saying, oh, so you do have some pejorative responses. Usually I want to say Vivek's feedback or the responses to his posts are, I want to say 70-90% positive. Someone by the name of JB said, quote, just another Crowder interrupt-a-thon, unquote. Got 2 likes. Let's see here. A lot of people posting random stuff about the Israel-Palestine conflict or war. Let's see here. A lot of meme. Oh, jeez. Okay, this is annoying. It's the same person. Jesus. Okay, same person just doing GIFs. A lot of GIFs. More random responses than usual. That's interesting. Like someone here just saying, I bet you could fight cartels. How much can you bench? Which again, if it is a physical conflict with the cartels, the amount of weight that you could bench press is perhaps a pertinent question. Though, given the situation, not yet. A lot of people talking about how much Blackrock has gotten throughout the years. A couple, 1 or 2 comments claiming that Vivek is a fraud. Deep state influence should not be underestimated, unquote, from the White Rabbit, getting 3 likes. And a bonus point for being a reference to The Matrix, which is one of the best films ever. Michael D. Vergarden saying, quote, yes, this is an important issue. None of the major issues can be solved without it, unquote. Getting 10 likes. Somebody named Stock Jock saying, quote, you're poking the bear. Does that scare you, unquote. Getting 10 likes as well. Dr. Yaz saying, quote, he really is not part of the establishment, unquote. So, even though a couple of pejorative responses, interesting enough, a little less traction than usual in terms of the number of responses. But again, much more often than not, still very much in support of Vivek. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Don't forget, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October. So if you could click that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, the feedback is greatly appreciated if you put comments in the videos. I always try to get to them as soon as possible and try to take that feedback to make the show better and better for everyone. Also, if you take the time to like the video and share the video, that's supposed to help with the YouTube algorithm. Hard to say how they program it these days, but if you do those things, I greatly appreciate it. Lastly, and also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.